All right, well, gentlemen, welcome to Chat and Chew, a program by Insight to Insight. We thank you for making the time to chat with us a little bit, chew with us a little bit. We are at Fork and Sticks, a Thai restaurant, and I'll ask you about your orders in a second. But first, I want to introduce you gentlemen. Adolphus Pruitt, you are the president of the St. Louis chapter of the NAACP, the city chapter, and Brother Malik, CEO, founder of Better Family Life. You provide services to African American individuals and families, a great community hub. I also want you to talk about your role with the NAACP. So can we start there, since you guys are longtime friends? I want you to start with your relationship and your roles in the community.
Well, let me just say this. I have always respected Adolphus. Ever since I got to St. Louis, which was 32 years ago, his name has always resonated with me because he was known years ago as a developer. And one of the first cultural centers that I was told that Adolphus was working on was an old police station on Union Boulevard.
Wow.
That was a historic building. And so when we start talking about what we wanted to do in the community, so many people had asked me, well, have you met Adolphus Pruitt? You know, he's done all kinds of developments. And to just watch him throughout the years and see how he has evolved, and especially in his role as the president of the St. Louis chapter of the NAACP, he has done enormous things to put NAACP back on the map in a primary leadership role of bringing resources and development and reconciling differences between the African American community, the white community, the corporate community, and the civic community. And I really appreciate that I'm having this opportunity to be in this program with him.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess easy to say the same for Malik. The thing, let's be clear, the thing that makes Malik so important to this community and our work and everybody's work is that to have somebody who has a foundation that is ingrained in the African American culture and diaspora, to have someone who understands who he is, where he came from, what he's evolving into, and then try to share it in a big way is extremely important. What has happened in America, especially in the African American community, that we become so disconnected from where we've come from that Africa is as foreign to us as China or Australia. I mean, it's just that foreign, and especially in our young folks. It is, at least Malik coming up as a child, at least, unfortunately, we had Tarzan and some other things where we at least had some sort of frame of reference to the motherland. It was a bad one, but something. But nowadays, they don't have anything. The young kids today, they don't have any frame of reference to where they have evolved from as a race of people. They just don't have any. Unfortunately, I've talked to some kids where let them tell it. You know, slavery, they don't even go as far back as the Middle Passage in slavery. They go back to their mindset go back to the 60s and the 50s. And so we've lost that much connection with our past, and Malik is bridging that gap, and somebody has to.
Coming to you, what's on your plate with the NAACP, outside of your plate of food that we're about to enjoy? What's on your plate of things to do?
I fortunately and unfortunately, I'm the first vice president for the state. So I got all of Missouri.
Oh.
And the issues I deal with statewide, not only locally, legal redress, political action, economic empowerment, all of that is on my plate. And so consistently, I have to make sure that I tie all these things together to make sure they're consistent with our mission and one supports the other. And I guess the biggest thing on my plate right now, outside of trying to figure out how we continue to move the pendulum economically to bring some economic freedom to people in the state and especially in St. Louis. My biggest issue is changing the numbers, and I'll make you laugh. So I was with somebody, and they said, well, Pro, what the hell are you trying to do? I said, I'm trying to move the numbers. They said, what numbers? I said, the census number. They said, what you mean the census? I said, listen. I said, when you look at the census, you see educational attainment for black folks, you see wealth, you see income, you see property value, you see all those things. That is the baseline that tells you the condition of the patient. Saying the community is the patient. That tells you how healthy you are, how unhealthy you are. And unless we can move those numbers, I haven't done anything. I said, so I'm on this 10-year track to move the numbers from 2010, so when 2020 come, I can look and say I moved the numbers and I accomplished something. If I haven't moved any one of those numbers, or if I haven't moved most of those numbers, then it was a good effort, but I didn't get the job done. And I don't have a problem with saying that I didn't get the job, because it's a huge job. It's a huge job. So everything we approach, and I approach now, is I approach it with looking at how can I best move those numbers. That's what's important.
What are your markers? How do you define your success within the community?
I think it's the same deal. You know, all of the social programming that Better Family Life does is, in effect, dealing with the numbers. With us, Better Family Life has a workforce program, taking people who are TANF recipients. TANF is Temporary Aid to Needy Families, which is the old welfare system. We, right now, currently are dealing with 31% of the state's TANF population, both in the city and the county. It represents 31% of the entire state. And those numbers are staggering. There's about 7,000 people on TANF, 7,000 families. We want to see that go from 7,000 to 4,000 to 3,000 to 2,000, because ultimately it's about the stability of families. It's about schools functioning well. It's about people, young people, not getting caught up in the criminal justice system. It's about us stopping the killing that takes place in our community on a day-to-day basis. It's about social justice, economic justice, social justice. We are the biggest victims of almost all of these areas. And, you know, we have got to stop being victimized. We have to stop doing it to ourselves and allowing other people to do it to us. So just as Adolphus say, everything is about these statistics that come out annually, every 10 years, every 2 years. We judge where we are as a people, as a community, how far we have made progress from how those numbers either increase or decrease. The wealth gap between white and black, 3-4 times, and it's growing. You know, the educational gap is growing. These things are very serious, and you know, too many of us are too casual about it.
Yes.
You know, a number of blacks in the criminal justice system is growing. It's not decreasing, it's growing. And we've become so accustomed to it. Yesterday, I understand 5 people were murdered in the African American community. Excuse me, not murdered, but 5 shootings occurred in the African American community. The numbers that we've got to do there is decrease that. It shouldn't be this kind of stuff. A week ago, it was 8 shootings. There was over an 18-hour period, the shootings of African Americans shooting each other, killing each other. This is ridiculous. It's crisis proportion.
And I was gonna say, and that's why our relationship has to stay the way it is, because it's my job to ensure that public policy and resources are made available to put into his hands, so as the programmer and the practitioner, he can do the things he's doing for the people individually. And we can't mix that up. I tell my people all the time, I say, we don't do programs.
Right.
What we do is make sure that those resources that those program needs exist. And we fight for it, and we fight for it all the time. And that's why these relationships have to exist. And so it's not and it gets strange, but it's not the competition. The competition that needs to exist is the competition for who is going to be first in line to give him what he needs. Mm-hmm. That's the competition that needs to exist.
That's right.
Now, I don't need anybody else doing what he does. I need him to have everything he needs to be able to scale it up and do more of it.
To take it to the next level.
I don't need, that when you hear people come along, and it came out of the Ferguson stuff. Everybody came along and wanted, I got a program.
Yeah.
I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I'm like, wait a minute. I got a program too. My program is, how do I give Malik some more money? Yeah, that's my program.
That's right.
Because I don't need nobody to start from where he started
All over again.
and to spend the next 10 years to get up to where he's at. That's a loss. That's a loss. He's serving tens of thousands of people.
Absolutely.
There ain't nobody gonna start anything as an outcome of Ferguson that would be up to service that many people the way he's servicing them, and as efficient and as effectively as he's servicing them. It would take them a decade.
There's no question.
It would take them a decade.
So,
That's right. And again, that's what makes the NAACP so strategic.
that's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
strategic is not even the right word, because there has been no better advocate for black upliftment in America than the NAACP. It has the longest history.
Yes.
So we are, in effect, we're all the children of the NAACP. We're the children and the grandchildren of it. And when we learn to respect our history rather than discard it, then you understand the centrality of what Adolphus does when he's sitting in the boardrooms talking to these corporations of what they need to do, or in Jefferson City dealing with public policy, what kinds of legislation needs to be brought at hand to come down with new resources into the community, or innovative resources. So yes, it works hand in hand of what we do, and it should be a model that others begin to follow. And when
What kind of approach do we take, gentlemen? Do we take MLK's approach peacefully? Or do we take a more aggressive approach? I don't think that question's been asked yet, because we're still out there attempting a little bit of everything to see what's working. But coming from the civil rights era and having a mixture of both, what's the best approach for the best outcome?
I think that the approach has to be an all options included approach. The approach has to be suitable to the circumstances.
Yes.
I thought it was very important for the people in Ferguson who were on the front lines in the evening time to challenge the constitutionality of their rights to demonstrate